Okay, we are nearing the end of the school year. As strange as it may be that we're not here at school, that we're doing all this stuff online, learning wise, but neither here nor there. We have entered May, and we are entering the end of the school year, and you will be rolling into your summer vacation. And so the class read aloud for this week is written by an author named Mark Teague. It's also illustrated by Mark Teague. So he's the author and the illustrator. He drew the pictures. And it is called How I Spent My Summer Vacation. Okay, so How I Spent My Summer Vacation by Mark Teague. And this is a Crown Publishers Inc. Book. Okay, so here's your quiz number, 17533. How I Spent My Summer Vacation. AR quiz number 17533. Okay, I will take a reading grade on this, so make sure you log into AR, use that quiz number, and take the quiz over it. Okay, now as I read this book, I want you to think about whether or not you think this book is fiction or nonfiction. And if you decide that it's fiction, I want you to think about whether you think it is fantasy. Is it realistic fiction? Is it historical fiction? Kind of go through that process in your brain and think about what you think it might be. And then I want you to consider who the characters are in the story, as well as the setting. Okay? Now, keep in mind for setting, there might be a main place that the character is, but there might be other things the character talks about which take place in different locations. So I want you to think about that as far as setting goes for this book. Okay? How I Spent My Summer Vacation. How I Spent My Summer Vacation by Wallace Bleff. So you can see the little boy, you can see the teacher. So what do you think the little boy's name is? Wallace Bleff. Here we go. When summer began, I headed out west. My parents had told me I needed a rest. Your imagination, they said, is getting too wild. It will do you some good to relax for a while. So they put me aboard a westbound train. To visit Aunt Fern in her house on the plains. But I was captured by cowboys, a wild-looking crowd. Their manners were rough, and their voices were loud. So right now you have probably identified that Mark Teague uses rhyming words in this book. I'm trying to get to my aunt's house, I said, but they carried me off to their cow camp instead. Looks like a fun place to me. The cattle boss growled as he told me to sit. We need a cowboy. Our old cowboy quit. We could sure use your help, so what do you say? I thought for a minute, and then I told him, okay. Then I wrote to Aunt Fern so she'd know where I'd gone. I said not to worry. I wouldn't be long. You see, he wrote a little postcard. Dear Aunt, captured by cowboys. Don't worry. See you soon. Love, Wallace. Okay, now if you're Wallace's aunt and you receive this postcard and you know Wallace is supposed to be coming to you, pause the video for a second and talk to somebody about what you think the aunt might be thinking upon receiving this postcard from Wallace. That night I was given a new set of clothes. Soon I looked like a wrangler from my head to my toes. But there's more to a cowboy than boots and a hat. I found out the next day and the day after that. So I wonder, do you think he might be learning some new things with these cowboys? Each day I discovered some new cowboy tricks. From roping. I don't know if that looks like something I would want to rope. And riding to making fire with sticks. And I don't know if that horse looks like one I would want to ride. Slowly the word spread all over the land. That Wrangler Kid Bliff is a first-rate cowhand. Now I want you to think for just a second when they say that he is a first-rate cowboy. Talk to somebody about what you think they mean when they say he's first-rate. The day finally came when the roundup was through. Aunt Fern called, "Come on over, bring your cowboys with you." She was cooking a barbecue that very same day, so we cleaned up a little and we headed her way. Now, if you thought that they were saying that he was a pretty good cowboy, you are correct. If something is first rate, that means it's pretty good. The food was delicious, there was plenty to eat, and the band that was playing just couldn't be beat. But suddenly I noticed a terrible sight. The cattle were stirring and stamping with fright. It's a scene I'll remember till my very last day. "They're gonna stampede," I heard somebody say. Now, if you don't know what a stampede is, I want you to see if you can make a prediction and think about what is going to happen next. Now, if you know what a stampede is, then you might have an idea already. Just then they came charging. They charged right at me. I looked for a hiding place, a rock, or a tree. You see, he's got his hamburger in his hand. There's a plate of food there. And oh boy. What I found was a tablecloth spread out on the ground. So I turned like a matador and spun it around. It was a new kind of cowboy and a fantastic display. The cattle were frightened and stampeded away. Look at these cowboys back here. They're like, we're not going out there. Now, if you've ever been to a rodeo, this scene might be familiar to you. You might be seeing something in your head right now, just like I am, about those little rodeo clowns that get out there. A lot of times they're wearing red. Then the cowboys all cheered, "Bliff's a true buckaroo." They shook my hand and slapped my back, and Aunt Fern hugged me too. And that's how I spent my summer vacation. I can hardly wait for show and tell. Oh, and if you look at the picture, I don't know. I'm not sure what the teacher's like. I'm getting out of here because we see who came along. Okay, so by now you should have identified where the actual setting of this takes place. But along with that, there were some other settings within the story that you're probably thinking about as well, that you should have identified. You know who the characters are that are involved in the story. So talk to somebody around you about the settings and the characters. Okay? If you decided that this was fiction, meaning it's fake, it's not something that really happened, and you determined that it was realistic fiction, well, you could be right. I mean, there really wasn't anything in this story that couldn't happen. I mean, I don't know that I would allow a longhorn or a bull or whatever into my classroom, but I mean, realistically speaking, I suppose you could walk down the hallway with one and enter a classroom with it. So the things that happened in here, well, they could have taken place. Probably not, but they could have. I mean, he could have been on a train on the way. He could have had some cowboys take him. He could have done all those different things before he went to his aunt's house. So realistic fiction, definitely a possibility here. I mean, we didn't have any talking animals. We didn't have any, talking supplies, anything like that that would indicate that it's a fantasy and something that couldn't really happen. All right. So there's your read aloud for this week. Remember, your writing prompt for this week is to write a letter to a parent or guardian or somebody that takes care of you, trying to persuade or convince them to allow you to do something that you want to do this summer. Okay, so you're going to need to come up with what it is that you really want to do, and you're going to need to come up with the reasons that you want to do them and some supporting evidence that would convince whoever it is you're trying to convince of why you need to do what it is that you want to do. So that's your writing activity for this week. Okay? Again, don't forget to AR test over how I spent my summer vacation, and let me know if you have any questions.